Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. Welcome to the start of another week, the week that Arsenal have headed to the USA to begin their USA tour, playing on Wednesday night or Thursday morning, whatever you want to call it, against Bournemouth. And not too long to wait for the first game of that tour. The team, of course, flew out there yesterday. We'll discuss that in today's show. We'll look at who's going, who's not. Real blow for Tomiyasu missing out with a knee injury. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Riccardo Calafiori. We've got lots of questions and comments from you guys as well as usual, which we will discuss at the end of the show. So let's get started, shall we? We'll start with Riccardo Calafiori as we wait for this transfer to be completed. Obviously, it's taken a big step forward in the last 48 hours in terms of an agreement in principle between Arsenal and Bologna. Now, there's just a few things that need to be ironed out on the Italian club side before Arsenal can hopefully get this deal finalised and hopefully, depending on how long it takes, get him over to the USA to join the tour at some point over the next 10 days or so, which would definitely be what Mikel Arteta is hoping for, because he would love to get him on board, even if he's not going to play over there, just to get over, meet the new teammates, settle in a little bit before they come back to the UK ahead of the start of the Premier League season. Now, there's been some interesting comments from Bonucci, Leonardo Bonucci, of course, the great Italian defender, on Riccardo Calafiori, which if you haven't heard them yet, this is what he's had to say, Bonucci, about Calafiori moving from Bologna to Arsenal. He says, Calafiori, I'm sorry about this transfer. I would have liked to have seen him at Juventus. He's a defender who's a little different to what we're used to seeing. He plays, he has personality, and it fits in. We're exporting a great player who will be a point of reference for the national team for the next 15 years. So Bonucci not happy with the fact that Italy are going to lose one of their great young talents to the Premier League and to Arsenal. I think what he's saying there as well is quite an interesting point when he says he's a defender who is a little bit different to what we're used to seeing. I think it's that sort of different that he's talking about is what's really attracted him to Arsenal and Mikel Arteta in particular, because we know what Arteta looks for when he looks at new signings and what he looks for in defenders as well, the ability to come out from the back, to play the ball out from the back. You think of great Italian sides and the classic sort of stereotype sort of defenders that we think of, including Bonucci, I suppose. And a lot of them are really sort of strong, physical defenders. You know, thou shall not pass, that type of attitude, which has built them so much success, both in Serie A, but also on the international stage as well. But Calafiori's just a little bit different. He has been compared a little bit to Maldini. Now, I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'm not comparing him in terms of what he's going to go on to achieve. You know, Maldini's obviously one of the all-time greats, but I mean in terms of his style of play and his ability to get on the ball, how comfortable he is on the ball, to move out playing forward. I think he got more assists than any other defender in Serie A last season. I think it was 5. And you think about the assist for the goal that Italy scored in the Euros against the Czechs. Was it the Czechs? I can't remember. It was Croatia, wasn't it? When again he got the ball out from the central areas, drove forward, played the ball out to the left-hand side, and the Italy player curled that lovely finishing to score right at the end. And you sort of look at that sort of play, and I think that's what really attracts Mikel Arteta to Calafiori, his ability on the ball, how he can come out into the central areas, how he can make things happen. He can become another man in midfield. Everything that we know Mikel likes about his defenders, whether that be Zinchenko in that sort of classic inverted role that he made his own before kind of getting a bit found out and losing his place in the team. We saw Ben White doing it from the opposite flank in the second half of last season. And I think that's definitely why Arsenal are pushing so hard to get this deal done. And as I said at the start, fingers crossed they can get it done pretty soon. It looks like it's getting a little bit messy from the Italian side. It sounds like Roma are now getting involved, because Roma had him before he went to Basel, and then and they think they're now going to be owed money somehow from this. And there's talk that Roma and Basel are going to have to go into the courts to decide all this. So it sounds like it's a little bit messy. Hopefully that doesn't have any sort of impact in terms of Arsenal being able to conclude this deal with Bologna very quickly. They can just get that done and then leave it to the other clubs to sort it all out in the courts if needs be. But yeah, hopefully it'll be done very soon. Right, moving on. As I said yesterday in the morning show, I was expecting this deal to be confirmed yesterday, and indeed it was. Tommy Setford is now an Arsenal player. He's flown out with the squad to the United States. If you're watching on YouTube, there he is signing his contract after making the move from Ajax, the young England under-20s goalkeeper. Per Mertesacker said, "We welcome Tommy to Arsenal. He's a young goalkeeper with big potential, and we look forward to supporting his development in the coming years. The first step on Tommy's development pathway with us will be to integrate into our under-21s academy group and train regularly with our first team goalkeeping group." So it's going to be kind of split between the two. He's coming in basically as an academy goalkeeper. I think he'll be the under-21s keeper this season. But they're going to also be giving him experience with the first team group at Colney, maybe not every single day, but a lot of days during the week, just to sort of split his balance in terms of his workload between the 21s and the first team. Setford himself says, "I want to thank Arsenal for this opportunity. I can't wait to hit the ground running. I already know that Ethan and Miles," so that's Wanyeri and Lewis Skelly, "they're great guys and I can have a good laugh with them. I spent a few camps with them, with England, of course, so I know them well. I just saw them for a quick meet and greet now. I'm looking forward to learning new things next season and pushing myself to another level. For the short term, it's very important now to get a feel for the group and start to know everyone." And that's going to be really easy to do when he goes over on the US tour, because we know what Mikel Arteta does. I've spoken about it before. It's not just about the matches at this tour. I mean, that's obviously very, very important, especially when it comes to pre-season. But Arteta loves these getaways as a chance to really bond the squad together. This is a little bit different to what we've seen. We'll discuss that in terms of how many young players are going. We've not really seen that before on the US tour under Mikel Arteta. But when they go, they all join together during the day. The meals that are set up every single time, they rotate where they're sitting on the table, so that Mikel Arteta doesn't want sort of cliques forming or anything like that. He always wants everyone to be able to get on with everyone. So each day they'll go in for their dinners and their lunches, and they'll be placed on different tables to what they were before. They would never be sitting next to the same people. And that's staff included, and that it's not just players. And it's just so that everyone gets to know each other. Everyone gets an opportunity to sit down and talk to people who they might not, if they were given the opportunity themselves, sort of spend much time with during the tour, because they'd spend it with the people that they are really sort of good mates with in the squad. And Mikel and the coaching staff are really keen to make sure that everyone spends time with each other, and they'll have barbecues. They're out there again when they're going to be placed into different things. So for a new signing like Tommy, and for Calafiori, if he does get out there, that's why they will think it's so beneficial to go out and be part of this squad as well. So yeah, welcome to the club, Tommy Setford. Actually, before, this is a travelling squad now that I've just brought up on YouTube. Before I get onto that, I'm still expecting Arsenal to really be pushing hard to try and get this deal done for Dan Bentley as well. And if that will happen, if it happens, I expect he'll go out on the tour as well. But Arsenal do have quite a few goalkeepers over there, as you can see here by the travelling squad that was announced yesterday for the US tour. Real mixture of senior and young players. I mean, you look at the goalkeeping, then Carl Hein is the most experienced goalkeeper on the US tour, and he's made one appearance for Arsenal in the first team. So it's Carl Hein, Tommy Setford, Lucas Nygaard, obviously new signing, and Alexi Rojas just signed his new contract as well. So they're the four goalkeepers that are going on this tour. Very, very inexperienced. Then you've got other youngsters in, like Rosiak's gone over, Aidan Heaven has gone over, Josh Nichols, Miles Lewis Skelly, Ethan Wanyeri, of course, Salah Dean, Jimmy Gower, Charles Sco Jr. So lots and lots. I think it's 12 youngsters have gone over. When you think, compared to last year's travelling squad, there was just one young player who went over, and that was Raoul Walters. Everyone, when I say one young player, the first team players are young, but you know what I mean, from the youth team. It's completely different this time because so many players are away. I mean, it's going to give them fantastic opportunities to play in this game. Obviously, a lot of the focus will be on Ethan and Miles, because of how they're obviously considered a lot closer to first team action. I'm really looking forward to seeing a couple others, especially Michael Rosiak, who is just a player who I've always been impressed by whenever I've seen Rosiak. He's a really talented young player. Here's the squad, if you're looking at it on the screen, who are going away. This was a sort of pre-tour picture that we've all taken. I don't know where that is. It looks like the hotel, I imagine, before flying to the airport. And yeah, hopefully, as I said, Zinchenko, Kivior and Jorginho, they're all about Leandro Trossard as well. They haven't been part of the training this week at London Colney, but they arrived back the day before the tour. Haven't been given a few extra days off because of their involvement at the Euros, but they're heading out as well. One player who is not going is Takahiro Tomiyasu. Arsenal have announced he's missed. Obviously, he didn't play in the friendly against Leyton Orient. His name was a notable absence in the first half and the second half, and Arsenal have now confirmed that Tomiyasu has another injury. It's a knee injury, and he's not going to go on the tour. He's going to remain back at London Colney alongside Kieran Tierney, and the two who's got hamstring injury, obviously, from the Euros. And the two of them are going to continue to sort of work on their rehab back at London Colney, which is a big blow to Tomiyasu. You know, he's been a part of this. He came back when everyone else did at the start. He's been involved in training. This is a picture there, if you're watching on YouTube, from they were training in the gym. Look how happy he looks. You know, he wasn't injured then. Obviously, he's picked up something while being back at the training centre. And it's a real blow. As Jeff Swanford's got in touch, says Tommy is injured again. So unlucky he is. I think we should keep Kivior now until at least January so Tommy can fix his knee injury. Hopefully it's not serious. I don't think it is serious. I don't think it's supposed to keep him out long term. The word is it's going to be out for sort of 3 weeks. But in pre-season, that's a blow because then you're always behind. We saw it with players like Gabriel Jesus last season who had that knee surgery and came back. He missed just a few weeks in pre-season. Then you're always playing catch up on everyone else. The thing with Tommy is, you know, physicality wise and fitness wise, when he does come back, he's just very, very fit. I don't look at Tommy as someone who takes, say, like Thomas Partey. Whenever I look at Thomas Partey when he comes back from an injury, it feels to me it takes about a month before he really gets back to his top form. I don't think that's really the same with Tomiyasu. He's one of those players who seems to be able to come back and almost immediately start playing well. But it's just another injury, and it is a concern. And I thought this was an interesting point from Jasper saying, you know, we're all expecting Kivior to go once Calafiori comes in. But, you know, you get rid of Kivior and then suddenly Tomiyasu has a real bad injury and then you're kind of scrambling around a little bit. So maybe it's a good point to raise. I still expect that Kivior will go, but maybe it would be worthwhile just keeping him around because of the extent of the injuries and the number of injuries we know that Tomiyasu does pick up. But yeah, it's a real disappointment, I have to say, that he's missing out on the tour. Okay, some questions and comments now before we wrap this one up. MKAP6046 has a few points. Looking at the squad going to the USA, how do young players like Norton Cuffy and Monlouis feel to have been left out now behind Aiden Heaven and Nichols? How does Patino feel being left behind Gower? Is this a clear sign that both Patino and Cuffy are no longer wanted at Arsenal now? Also, with Casada not going, do you think Heaven or Skelly will get a chance at left back? Well, Skelly did play at left back in the game against Leyton Orient. Obviously, he has that quality about him in terms of Mikel Arteta's thinking. So we might well see that again during the tour. In terms of Norton Cuffy and Patino, I just think, as I've said many times, I just think it's because they're going to go this summer. The club know they're going to go. You know, Patino, I've always said this will be the summer that he leaves. And I'm expecting that to happen. He's only got a year left in his contract. I expect him to go. Norton Cuffy's obviously spent most of his time in the last few years away on loan, and I think that will continue. Well, I think he'll probably go on a permanent basis this summer as well. And the club know that, and so there's just no point them going on the tour. So they'd rather take some other players whose immediate future is at Arsenal. So I just think that's the point. And Monlouis, again, I kind of feel very, very similar. Obviously, had a bit of a loan spell at Reading last season. Didn't really pan out that well for him. But again, I'm not sure there's a long-term future for Zayn Monlouis at Arsenal. And someone like Aiden Heaven, then there clearly is, and he's very, very highly rated. So I think that's the reason that they've been picked above maybe more senior youth players. Hamza says, hi, Charles. With so many youth players going on the US trip, how do you think Arsenal will line up against Bournemouth? Do you think he'll play the best possible lineup in the first half and replace them all at half-time, or potentially have a mixture of youth and first-team players in both halves? Which I think will make more sense. I think that will be the way he goes. I think it's very, very similar to how he handled the Leyton Orient game. If you go back and look at the teams that we saw start that game, the first half was a stronger team than the second half, but there was a mixture in there as well. I think Aiden Heaven started in the first half alongside, it was Timber, I think, played at centre-back, wasn't it? And I think we'll see very similar to that. Of course, you do have some of the players now who weren't involved for that Leyton Orient game. So Kivior, Zinchenko, Trossard and Jorginho, they are now back available, but they're behind everyone, about a week behind everyone. So if we see them in that first game against Bournemouth, which we might not, but if we do, I presume that'll be sort of, they'll get half an hour in that game in the second half. So I think he will go stronger in the first half, but it still will be a little bit of mixture. I just think it has to be because there's so many young players on board now on this tour that he will have to mix and match a little bit. But as the tour progresses, I think we'll see a stronger first starting in 11 in each game, and those who start in the first half will get more minutes gradually. You know, maybe some will get 45 minutes in the first half against Bournemouth, and then the next game against, is it Liverpool or is it United? they'll get an hour, and then maybe in the final game they get 75 minutes, and you'll just start to prepare them a little bit that way. Here's one from Nasho Zombie or something. Or I apologise, I probably got that totally wrong. Let's just call you Nash for now, shall we? After Calafiori, our next priority should be midfield. If we get a top player, that person walks into the starting lineup. A top forward is likely only be a rotation option. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think midfield is certainly, when you're looking at someone who's going to come in and improve the starting 11 straight away, there is obviously a glaring spot there in midfield to potentially do that. We've got Rice and Odegaard are a given in those two of the three midfield spots, and then the other spot is up for grabs. You would think if Thomas Partey stays fit, then he's probably could well be the guy who starts the season in that position if he stays fit during the summer. But I think there's definitely in it a position there up for grabs for an absolute sort of guaranteed starting spot. And like you say, in the forward, you're probably going to be rotating a little bit more. So yeah, I see exactly what you're saying there. NP Stevens says, hi, Charles. I know it's a long shot, but could ESR prove his value and secure the left 8 role over pre-season with his unique technical abilities, eye for goal? Give him a bit of strength and he'd fit like Xhaka did. He'll probably get sold to Fulham, but I hope his Arsenal story isn't over. Cheers, Noah. I mean, you all know my thoughts on this one. I agree. I hope his Arsenal story isn't over, but I kind of think it is. Even if he does go on tour, even if he does well, I think for Arsenal's point of view, if he does well over in the US tour, it will just hopefully add a few more millions to the eventual transfer fee they agree with either Fulham or Palace. Look, ideally, I don't think Arteta would want to let Smith Rowe go. He didn't want to let him go last summer, but then he didn't really use him much during the season. But he still sees him as a really important squad player. And he knows he has quality, and he knows he can turn to him and use him. So, in an ideal world, he would keep Emile Smith Rowe, but I think he knows that the club does need to bring some money in for some players. He knows that he's not going to use him that much. So, if a good offer comes in, Arsenal aren't going to stand in his way, and they will allow him to go. But yeah, I think that will happen. I think he will go, no matter what happens on the US tour. But we shall see. It'd be good to see him play well while he's over there. Maybe get himself a couple of goals before that does happen, though. Here's one from PFG93. He says, I think there's a player in Rosiak. He's always under the radar. There's something there. Interested to see his use on the tour. Yeah, I was speaking about him earlier on in the show. Yeah, I agree. I think there is a player there. I was really impressed with him in the run under Wiltshire to the Youth Cup final, not last season, the season before that. There was a lot of focus on that run on Wanyeri, on Lewis Skelly, on Cozier, Dewberry. But every time I watched Rosiak, it impressed me. He's excellent with a set piece. Obviously, his free kick ability is fantastic. His corner ability is fantastic. He was playing on the right-hand side, but he was almost inverting. He was playing a sort of inverted right-back role when I was watching him. Technically, he looks very, very good. I spoke to him after one of the games, actually. He came out after I think it was a semi-final win against Manchester City, and spoke to a few of the journalists who were there. And yeah, I think he's a really interesting player, Rosiak. And like you, I'm going to be very interested to see how he gets on over in the tour if he does get some opportunities, which I hope he does. Right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and for listening today. Appreciate it as always. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again as we really start to gear towards that opening game of the US Tour. Anything you want me to discuss in tomorrow's show, get down into the comments, leave them in there, and I'll pull some of them together and get them included as usual in the show. Until then, have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.